Okay, so I want you to picture something with me for a second. It's a visualization, but just stick with it.
I'm with you.
Imagine you're standing in a library. But this isn't, your local library with the weird carpet smell. This one is infinite. It just stretches out forever, and every single shelf is packed with these, like, glowing books.
Sounds like heaven for a certain type of person.
It does, right. And here's the thing. You live here. You've read every single one of these books. The gold one's on wisdom, the blue one's on logic.
Mm-hmm.
You can quote Rilke on solitude without even blinking.
You can explain neuroplasticity over coffee.
Exactly. You have all the data. You are theoretically the wisest person alive.
A monument to mastery.
Sure. But here's the catch, and this is really the hook for everything we're diving into today. You know all about presence,
Right.
but you're rarely actually present.
Mm.
You understand the whole theory of emotional regulation. You could draw the diagrams, but the second your partner makes that one specific comment about the dishes, you just snap.
The gap between the library and the living room.
Well, not even just the gap. It's like a total disconnect. And it feels like a failure of discipline, doesn't it? Like, oh, I just need one more book on mindfulness, and then I'll get it.
But the idea we're exploring today is that another book isn't just unhelpful. It might actually be the trap itself.
Right.
We're confusing information with transformation. We think if we just stack enough data in our brain, it'll eventually tip over and become wisdom. But that's just not how the mind works.
And we're going to look at this through the lens of Gestalt psychology today. And I have to be honest, when I first heard Gestalt, I just thought of, those optical illusions in old textbooks.
The duck rabbit.
Yeah, but this goes so much deeper. The thesis here is that we might be trapped in a cycle where the more we try to learn how to be free, the more we end up building a cage out of that very learning.
It's the difference between studying the map and actually walking the terrain. And Gestalt is the perfect vehicle for this because it's all about perception, how we organize reality, not just how we think about it.
So let's unpack this trap of learning. There's this metaphor that came up that I really struggled with at first, but it's starting to make sense now. The museum of the mind.
It's a powerful image. We tend to curate our insights. We have an experience, let's say a moment of bravery, and instead of just living it, we label it. We build an exhibit in our head called courage. We polish the glass, we stand back and admire it.
We're acting like curators of our own lives.
We are, and the problem with the museum is you don't touch the exhibits. You just observe them. There's a phrase I love for this. Knowledge often sits on the surface of consciousness, like dew on glass.
Dew on glass. That sounds poetic, but what does that actually mean for, the person just trying to improve their life?
Well, think about dew on a window. It's shimmering, it's visible, it catches the light, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But it never penetrates the glass, it just sits on the surface. It's decorative, not digestive. You can have all the right vocabulary about healing and growth, and you can sit there shimmering away while the actual structure underneath hasn't changed at all.
Okay, that hits a little too close to home. It's the paradox of self-help. I have a friend, we all have this friend, who is obsessed with optimization. He watches like 10 TED Talks on mindfulness a week. He has 3 different meditation apps. He even bought one of those Himalayan singing bowls.
And let me guess, when actual stress hits,
he crumbles. The moment there's like an awkward silence or a difficult feeling, he's just doom scrolling on his phone. He has the gear, he has the words, but he has zero capacity to just sit there.
Because his mind is full of ideas about stillness, but his nervous system has never actually met silence. He's collecting maps of a country he has never set foot in.
So, if gathering more information isn't the answer, and it's clearly not, we're drowning in it and we're all still anxious, what's the alternative? Because trying harder doesn't seem to be working either.
This is where we have to get into the Gestalt view of perception, and it gets a little technical for a second, but stay with me. Gestalt teaches that we don't see the world piece by piece. We grasp it as organized wholes.
Okay, give me a concrete example.
Right. A face. When you see your best friend, you don't see left eye, right eye, nose, mouth, and then do some kind of math equation to realize it's your friend.
No, you just see them instantly.
You just see the face. It's a unified expression. That immediacy is key. Real learning, real transformation isn't about adding a new fact to your pile. It's a reorganization of your entire perceptual field.
This is the duck-rabbit illusion.
Right. Okay.
Most people have seen it. It's a simple drawing. One way, it's a duck. Then you shift your focus, and it's a rabbit.
Right. Now think about the experience of that shift. Does the drawing itself change?
No. The ink is the same.
Right. What changes is the organizing principle. One moment, it's a duck. then snap, it's a rabbit. You don't analyze your way from duck to rabbit. The perception just reorganizes.
And you can't really force it, can you? I remember staring at those Magic Eye posters in the 90s until my head hurt. If you try too hard, you see nothing.
That's the critical point. It's embodied and it's sudden. You can't unsee the rabbit once you've seen it. Real learning is like that. It's not an intellectual choice. It's a perceptual shift.
So if this shift is so natural, why don't we do it all the time? Why are we stuck seeing the duck of our own bad habits?
Because we block the shift. We are, I think, terrified of the raw data of our lives. So we buffer it.
Buffer it how?
We interpret experience before we actually feel it. So say you feel a sudden surge of anger toward a colleague.
Which happens.
Right. But before you can even register the heat in your chest, your mind jumps in. Oh, that's not productive. I'm projecting my father issues. I should do a breathing exercise. You label it. You explain it away.
You put it in the museum.
You put it in the museum.
Okay.
And that sounds healthy, right? But if you analyze instead of feeling, you're just buffering. You never feel the raw texture of the anger, so your field can't reorganize. You're still the curator, safe behind the glass.
I have a story that might make this tangible. It's about learning to swim. I was a really late swimmer. I didn't learn until I was an adult.
Oh, that's a perfect arena for this.
So I did what I always do. I bought a book. I watched videos on fluid dynamics. I understood the physics of buoyancy perfectly.
You had the library?
I had the whole library. And then I jumped in. And the second that water went up my nose, the library just, it burned to the ground.
Yeah.
None of that intellectual data mattered.
Because the water doesn't care what you know.
Not at all. It was just pure panic. But then there was this moment, I could still feel it, where the panic kind of collided with something else. A weird kind of trust. I stopped fighting and just exhaled.
That split second, that little tremor in your diaphragm where you choose to blow bubbles instead of gasping for air, that is embodied reorganization.
It felt like my body learned something. My brain just couldn't tell it.
Your body learned the water. You cannot learn the feeling of wetness from a book. And if we scale this up, we're talking about forgiving someone or setting a real boundary. These aren't skills you memorize. They're fields you have to enter, usually while you're scared.
And that's the safe learning trap. We want the lesson without the wetness. We want to learn to swim from a dry chair.
We want the transformation without the interruption. But the real insights, they almost always come from the interruptions. A loss, a betrayal, a kindness you didn't see coming. These things shatter the glass cases in your museum and the field is forced to reorganize.
Okay, you keep using this word field.
Uh.
The field reorganizes. It sounds a little sci-fi. Can we ground that? What is the field?
It's the bedrock of Gestalt theory. We have to just abandon the myth of the isolated mind, this idea that you're a brain in a jar processing data. The field is, well, it's everything happening right now. Your body, your environment, your memories, your relationships, and this is crucial, your present need.
Your present need. That feels important.
It dictates everything. We like to think we control our attention like it's a flashlight we can point wherever we want.
Right, I'm going to focus on work now.
Yeah, but Gestalt argues that attention isn't aimed, it's claimed by what the organism needs.
So if I'm hungry, I'm going to notice the sandwich, not the spreadsheet.
Precisely. A hungry person walks into a room and sees food. A grieving person walks into the same room and notices the empty chair. You can't force something to become the figure, the focal point, if it doesn't resonate with the need of the field.
This explains why you can't just decide to get over something.
Exactly. If you're trying to force yourself to learn productivity hacks, but your real underlying need is to process a trauma, it's just not going to stick. The field won't support it. You're trying to plant corn on concrete.
Which brings us to this idea of incomplete gestalts. This one really stuck with me. It sounds like a German techno band, but I know it's about unfinished business.
It does sound like a band, but think of it like a cognitive itch. The human mind hates open loops. If I hum the first 3 lines of a famous song and then just stop.
Ugh, I will hate you. My brain will scream the last line.
Your brain needs to close that pattern. That's a Gestalt. Now imagine that same mechanism, but for your emotional life, things that were never resolved.
Like an argument where you never got to say your piece.
Or a ridicule you suffered in a meeting 5 years ago. You think you've moved on, right? You've decided it doesn't matter. But the field hasn't closed the loop. So that unresolved moment acts like a phantom limb. It sits in the background, creating tension.
And how does that show up now?
It shapes your current behavior. Maybe you hesitate to speak up in meetings. Maybe you over-prepare to the point of exhaustion. You think you're just being careful, but actually, you are dancing around a phantom limb from 2018.
And reading a book on confidence is not going to fix that.
No, because the book is talking to your intellect. But the problem is in the field's organization. You can't think your way out of a perceptual trap.
So how does it happen? If I can't think my way out, and I can't force it, are we just supposed to wait for lightning to strike?
Not exactly, but we have to respect the process. There were these classic Gestalt studies with chimpanzees. They'd give them a complex problem, like stacking boxes to reach a banana that was too high.
And did they figure it out bit by bit?
No, that's what's so fascinating. It wasn't a gradual, I'm 10% closer, now 20%. It was discontinuous. The chimp would be confused, frustrated, it'd walk away, pace around, and then suddenly, just stillness. And then boom, they'd stack the boxes.
The aha moment.
It is. But notice what comes before the aha.
Confusion, frustration.
The parts we hate, the parts we try to skip. We want the new ground without the tension. But the natural cycle is tension leads to a figure emerging, which leads to expression and then completion. You have to stay in the tension long enough for the new figure to emerge from the ground.
This brings us to a word in the research that I almost skipped because it sounded like a biology textbook. Isomorphism.
It's a mouthful.
It is. But once I dug in, it seemed like the key to this whole stopping the fake learning thing. So break it down for us. What is isomorphism here?
Simply put, does the outside match the inside? Is there a structural correspondence between your inner experience and your outer expression?
So like authenticity?
Even deeper than that. It's about alignment. When your internal state aligns with your action, the field achieves a kind of wholeness. The problem is, we are constant editors of our own experience.
We edit our own life feed.
Constantly, you feel anger, but you have a story that says, I'm a nice person, so you smile. That is a break in isomorphism. The inside doesn't match the outside, and that creates a ton of stress in the system.
But wait, I have to push back a little. If I'm furious at my boss, isomorphism sounds like it means I should just flip the table over.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like a great life strategy.
And that's the common fear. If I stop editing, I'll become a monster. But isomorphism isn't about acting out, it's about acknowledging in. It's about letting the anger actually be anger in your awareness without immediately trying to turn it into a lesson on boundaries.
So I don't have to punch the wall, but I do have to admit fully to myself that I want to punch the wall.
Yes. You stop preventing the experience from happening inside you. This is the paradox of effort. We spend so much energy holding the beach ball underwater, trying to turn our pain into productivity. The invitation is to just let the ball float.
To become available to what's actually happening.
Correct. The goal isn't to gain more knowledge to store in the library, it's to become available to the intelligence of the whole field.
This moves us into the final idea, which I think is maybe the most radical one, the concept of not knowing, the liminal space.
The space between the old world and the new one?
Yeah, the source describes it as the moment just before dawn. You're suspended, you're not broken, but you're not fixed. You're just there.
And this is where real learning lives. It's the hardest place for the modern mind to just sit. We crave certainty. We want the rabbit to be a rabbit now. But sometimes it's just a blur of ink.
There's a beautiful thought here. Freedom is what remains when you stop trying to become free.
Freedom via subtraction, not accumulation.
Which sounds amazing, but also terrifying.
Yeah.
I've spent my whole life trying to add things, add skills, add wisdom. And you're telling me the secret might be to subtract.
Well, think about the observer trap. The moment we label an experience a lesson, we step out of it. We become the observer.
Oh, I do that constantly.
Oh, wow, look at me having a difficult time. This will make a great story later.
I'm narrating my own life instead of living it.
Exactly. And you're safe up there in the narrator's booth, but you're not learning. You're watching a movie of yourself. Real change requires the risk of being a participant.
The metaphor of a child learning to walk really landed this for me.
It's the perfect counterexample to the observer. When a toddler learns to walk, she doesn't fall to learn about balance.
No.
She doesn't fall because she's running an experiment on gravity.
She falls because she's reaching for something.
Yes. She sees the cat or a toy and the field calls her forward. Her body just leans into the unknown. She stumbles. Does she sit there and write a LinkedIn post about what the floor taught her?
5 things I learned from falling on my diaper.
No, she gets up because the field is still calling her. Her learning is embodied, immediate, and driven by her contact with the world. She isn't trying to be a good walker, she is trying to get to the cat.
And that's the difference. We're all obsessed with being good walkers. We're obsessed with the technique of living rather than the living itself.
And the ultimate completion of a gestalt, the deepest kind, isn't just solving the problem, it's dissolving the need for a resolution.
Wow, that's a heavy statement. dissolving the need for resolution.
Can you let confusion just be confusion without demanding clarity? Can you sit in that liminal space before dawn without trying to force the sun to rise? That is where the new ground is actually formed.
Sounds like giving up control.
It is giving up control, but it is gaining reality. You're trading the map, which you've memorized in that infinite library, for the territory, which is wild and unpredictable and alive.
So as we wrap this up, it really does put us full circle back to that library. The freest mind isn't the one that has read every single book on the shelf.
No, it's the mind that has stopped needing to read about life in order to live it. It's the mind that has stopped buffering, stopped editing.
Maybe the goal isn't to master the library. Maybe the goal is to just walk out the door.
Leave the museum. Step into the storm.
So here's the question we want to leave you with today.
Yeah.
And it's not a comfortable one.
What if your next breakthrough doesn't come from another insight or another book or even this podcast? What if it comes from having the courage to just stay with what you don't understand?
To stay with the confusion, the tension, the not knowing, without trying to fix it.
The field is waiting. Not for your mastery, but for your presence.
And on that note, we'll let you get back to the field. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Until next time.